I took a trip in the car going to Dallas for braking miles, right? Well, on the way back home, the car is acting kind of funny, and I have a feeling this engine's about to let go. I don't understand at all what is going on because, like, the car is fine, all the gauges are fine, the AFR has been fine, the temperatures have been fine, voltage is fine, oil pressure is fine. Like, I just don't get what is going on. It's acting real funny, though. I'm not sure if, like, we were maybe burning all the oil off. I mean, that's the only explanation. There's no leaks. I already checked at the gas station. I wasn't recording because I was so mad, but like we stopped and pulled over, checked under the car, no leaks at all. I'm honestly just really upset and frustrated because I know something's wrong with it now. I was just trying to figure out what's wrong with it and how to fix it. I seem like I'm spoiled now. I've like officially spoiled myself. I'm upset because my built motor and my drag car is hurt, so I can't daily drive it no more. So now I got to pick between the ZL1 converted Camaro, the Shelby, or the other Shelby. Shouldn't be complaining. I'm not complaining. Don't get it confused. I need to, I think, take a step back more often and realize how much good actually goes on. Stop getting so hung up on the small bad things that happen. It's just the car. Everything can be fixed. Anyways, I'm gonna pull this thing in. We'll get started diagnosing it tomorrow. So, see you later. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have to make a video that I really do not want to make. And the reason why I don't want to make it is because it seems like no matter what goes on there constantly is some kind of something that always is happening. And honestly, I'm not that worried about it. But basically what happened is I made a mistake. I don't even know if it's who's to blame. Maybe it's me. Maybe I don't know. We'll get into that in a minute. But I was not recording, long story short, and I blew the car's engine yet again. We've got the car up on the lift because we're getting ready to pull the engine out of the car. Basically what happened is, as you guys remember, the last video that you guys saw was us getting the car running and driving, right? We just got our temporary Coyote engine in the car, got it running. It is a built Coyote. We've got it bored over. We put pistons, rods, bearings, head studs, all that good stuff in it, and we were aiming to make like 1,200 horsepower with the engine. Let me give you guys a breakdown of timeline of what happened over the last few days. So, we get the engine running, right? You guys saw that video. We started it up for the first time. It was really great. We didn't get to drive it around because I wanted to make sure that we got everything buttoned up properly. We've had a few hiccups in the past with engines, obviously, so I did not want anything like that. Video 2, we get the wheels, suspension, everything put on the car, and we take it for its first drive. First drive goes fantastic. I mentioned to you guys at the end of that video that I was going to take that car to dinner that night and drive it back home. So I did. No problems. The car was perfect. It was running perfect, driving perfect, everything. Now, again, we are on a base map, so I couldn't do anything. I can't go over, I mean, it's the same thing. We've broken in many engines on this channel now. You guys know I can't go over a certain RPM, I can't go over a certain percentage throttle, can't go into boost, can't do anything like that. So I was very cautious of doing that the entire drive there and the entire drive back. Weekend rolls around, which was the next day after taking it to dinner. I get the car and I'm like, I'm gonna go finish putting the braking miles on the car. We've got to put 1,000 miles on the car. The car is running fine. I took it on a shakedown test to go to dinner and drove it back home. I'm going to not do anything stupid in the car. I'm just gonna drive it to Dallas and drive it back. So that way, braking miles will be done on the engine. So whenever I get back, we can swap in full synthetic oil, start tuning the car and really beating on it, right? And obviously, as you guys know, the car only runs on E90, which isn't a problem. We've got a lot of E90. We've got two 55-gallon drums, and we've got, aside from that, about 70 plus probably gallons sitting on the side as well. Me and Doug are sitting there talking. We're like, double checking everything. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Everything was great. I filled the car with E90, like I said, and I took two VP Racing jugs, and I stuck them in the trunk. And the idea was that I was going to leave from here and go to Dallas. Dallas is 4 hours from here. So in that 4-hour drive, I typically will use a full tank and then I'll pour the extra 2 in the car to start driving back with, and I'll just go to whatever E85 station in Dallas. I'll top the car off and I'll top the jugs off. Well, I get to Dallas, so we're driving around or whatever. We go eat at Benihana, really good time. Car was perfect the entire drive there. It was like literally perfect. I was so happy. It was smoking initially, but then it started getting better throughout the day, so I assumed that rings were seating, right? Brand new engines, obviously you have bigger, more aggressive ring gaps because you're running boosted setups, stuff like that. So I figured everything was perfect. Well, We get done eating, and the car is empty, and my 2 jugs are empty at this point. And so I've got a few miles to eat, and I was like, all right, let me pull up my maps real quick. While we're in Dallas, I'm gonna stop, find some E85, and I'm gonna fill the car up, and I'm gonna fill my 2 jugs up. That way I know that I can make it back home. Still, like I said, car is doing perfect. I'm actually in Garland, Texas at this point. We just had left Benihana, came down, and we're about to get back on I-20 to head back across to Ruston, which is where we live. As soon as we do that, I go and like I said, I get to that racetrack, and I fill the car up, and I fill my 2 jugs up with the E85. Obviously didn't think anything of it. Now I want to literally punch myself in the face for it. I'm thoroughly aggravated at this situation, but let me continue explaining. I fill the car up with the E85 from the pump. I filled the jugs up with the E85 from the pump. Everything was perfectly fine until about 2 hours in, and I mean, cruise control just set on the interstate. We're just literally 6th gear, just cruising at 70 miles per hour. It's got 331 gearing in it, so the RPMs actually stay pretty low. I mean, we're cruising at like 1200 RPM, maybe 13, 14, 1500 RPM, something like that. It's dark outside, and the windows are up because it was 20 something degrees. I couldn't exactly tell, but apparently the car had started smoking a lot worse than it had before the rings had seated. I couldn't see that. The car had been doing fine all day. I didn't think about needing to check to make sure that the car is not smoking. As we're going down the interstate, everything's fine. It's smooth, and then it's just like pull over at the gas station, and I'm like, what is going on? Something's not right. And as we pulled over in the gas station, the car was sitting there idling, but was not smoking. I'm looking under the car, trying to see if anything's leaking. I'm looking at literally everything, trying to figure out what's going on. I checked the catch can to make sure it wasn't full of oil somehow during break-in, and maybe it was getting passed, and like, I really don't know. I was checking everything. Checked everything that I could. Couldn't find anything, so I killed the car, let it sit for a minute, and I'm sitting there like scratching my head like, why is this thing doing this? I can't understand why. It's been perfect, so what's going on? So in the middle of me sitting at the gas station trying to think, I was like, oh yeah, okay, let me check the oil. I checked the coolant, I checked everything else. And by the way, I do want to mention this also. Whenever the car was going down the interstate and it was like pop, 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 and sputtering and stuff, oil temp was fine, oil pressure was fine, literally everything was fine. All the gauges checked out perfect. And so I was like, okay, well, everything's checking out, but the car is still sputtering, so I pulled over. I would check the oil, and I pull the dipstick, and the dipstick is completely dry. And that was bad because just the night before, like I told you guys, before I left to go to Dallas, we just put fresh oil on video. We checked to make sure it was completely topped off and that the level was completely fine. Checked everything. It checked out, put it back together, started it, made sure there wasn't any leaks. Perfect. After I noticed that there is no oil, I freak out and I'm like, holy hell, that's bad. That's really bad. It's probably sputtering and spitting because in my head, I'm like, somehow the car is low on oil. Maybe it had a leak and I've been running it with no oil for 2 hours. And maybe now it's like getting to where it's starting to try to lock up. The engine will literally, it friction welds itself to itself, basically. The rods will literally weld itself to the crank. Maybe that's what's going on. But then I'm like, okay, well, I saw oil pressure. So what is the deal? I go into the gas station and I go get more oil, right? I grab 2 quarts and I pour 2 quarts in there. Check the dipstick again. Not even on the dipstick still. And I'm like, holy crap, I've got an 8-quart oil pan on this car. Put 2 more. Not even on the dipstick still. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. I've poured 4 quarts into an 8-quart engine, not even on the dipstick. So I turn the wheel and I look all underneath the car. I'm talking literally everywhere, trying to find out a leak. And call Doug, and Doug is on the phone with me. We're both trying to figure out what is going on. Doug's like, dude, maybe the oil filter backed off. Check the oil filter. I checked the oil filter. No leak at all. I was like, maybe the drain plug is leaking. Check the drain plug. No leak. No leaks from the oil pan. No leaks anywhere at all. I even, after putting oil in the car, started up, try and check for leaks. No leaks whatsoever. Now that it's back here, we've put it up on the lift. No leaks. I'm still confused, so I go back in the gas station. I get 2 more quarts of oil. That gets it on the dipstick. So to fill it back up from where it was to the full mark on the dipstick, it took 6.5 quarts, which quick math will tell you that means that the engine only had 1.5 quarts sitting in the entire engine, and it was just enough to where it could keep oil pressure. Immediately, I called Doug back and I'm like, where does 6.5 quarts go? And the funny part about it is I was curious of what my miles per gallon were on the way to Dallas and if I was gonna make it for sure, because I knew I was stretching it already with the low amount of E85 that I had in the car. So I reset my trip right before we left. At the gas station, I looked at my trip and it showed that we had gone 271 miles. So in 271 miles from a fresh oil change, I lost 6.5 quarts of an 8-quart engine. I couldn't answer it. Doug couldn't answer it. We're so confused. The car is running fine. It's not even knocking. It's not doing anything. So I'm literally mind boggled. I'm so confused. There's no leaks. There's no nothing. 6.5 quarts is gone. I put the 6.5 quarts in there and me and Doug were talking. And I'm like, okay, well, it's running fine. I don't hear anything. I just don't know where the oil is going. And it's spitting and sputtering as we're going down the highway. And so in my head, I was like, whatever. I'm just going to drive it back home. We're only 2 hours away. way, I'll just limp it back home, be very, very careful with it. We ended up going like 55 miles an hour in 5th gear the entire way home just because I didn't want to go fast in case something happened. I started the car up just to see if there was any leaks. Again, no leaks. So I was like, whatever, might as well just give it a shot. Let's make it back home. So in my head, the oil actually goes around the side of the piston into the combustion chamber until the rings are completely seated against the cylinder walls. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, maybe the spark plugs got fouled out because the oil was going around into the combustion chamber and maybe it fouled a few plugs. So in my head, okay, maybe it's just spark plugs. Drive it back home and we pull the plugs out of the car and this is what we find. Each one of these are out of all 8 cylinders. This plug looks to be relatively fine. You can see a little bit of oil on it, but that's to be expected, like I said, during break-in. Here's the next. Nothing crazy, but as you see, there's a lot of burning going on, and it looks like the tip of the electrode there on the spark plug is getting pretty hot, right? Let's move on to the next one. This one here actually doesn't look horrible, but again, you can definitely see that it is burning a lot of oil and there's a lot of something going on here. This one is very concerning. If you look at the entire spark plug, it looks like there is like a tar substance that is completely covering the spark plug. And now I understand why it was misfiring going down the interstate, why it was doing the whole bruh, 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 bruh. I got it. I was like, okay, so it's because the electrodes on the spark plugs completely melted and it was misfiring. That's obvious. Doug has a little borescope and we stick our little borescope in through the spark plug hole so we can look at the inside of the cylinder, maybe to see what was going on. And this, this is what we found.
So this is going to be cylinder number 1. That's pretty much what we've got built up there.
That is on the head of one of the pistons.
See, yeah, that's our valve relief right there. I kind of spun the motor over some, but you see, look at the very edge of it. See how it looks like it's kind of like pockmarked a little bit? And then there's just so much buildup on here. So that was the first indication. This is the first one that I checked. I was pretty worried about it. That's where I figured it was eating oil. But then we moved to cylinder number 3. See that? That's oil pulled up in there.
That right there, that is a pool of oil, like Doug said, that is sitting at the bottom of the piston, or at the top of the piston. And if you look at the top of the piston now, that entire piston is pretty much melted at the top.
Look at this point right here. You see this? There's something very wrong here in this top section.
So something has completely eaten away at the cylinder walls in there.
More of the same on the rest of the cylinders.
So yeah, like Doug said, upon investigation, we put the borescope in there and we noticed that 2 of the cylinders immediately are completely fried. We go through and we start checking the rest of them. They are all completely destroyed. The pistons destroyed. And so in my head I was thinking, and I'm like, how? Me and Doug are both sitting there like, what is going on? How could this even be happening? This is so confusing. Why would the pistons completely melt? Could not figure it out. And I was like, dude, the car has been acting fine. I don't get it. And then I had like a realization and I was like, oh my God. I had to get E85, Doug, and the E85 that I picked up was from the racetrack in Garland, and I didn't have any E85 tester with me and I didn't check it. And we literally just froze, just sat and stared at each other, and I was just like, I had one of the jugs still full of the E85 that I had from there because we didn't use all the jugs coming home. I only ended up needing one. So I was like, let's just test it. Yeah, so our E85 that I got out of the pump actually tested at 60%. The car is tuned for 90%, and it's tuned strictly for 90% because all that we get is always 90% or above, so it doesn't matter. We always have the tune dialed in exactly for 90%. Anyways, I guess I didn't think anything of it. I know that out of other pumps other than the exact one that we go to every single time, people ask why we drive an hour for E85. This is why. Out of the pump that I get it from every time, like I said, it's E90. I didn't think that I needed to test it, and I figured even if it was low, I thought if it says E85 on the pump, maybe if it was low, it would test like 82%. And honestly, 82% in my opinion, driving at 1200, just 1500 RPM, whatever, cruising down the highway, I didn't think it would matter. And that's my screw up. That's my mistake. That is where I fell short. I didn't think that it would matter about the exact content of the ethanol in the fuel. I figured that as long as it is E85, even if it's lower content, if we're just cruising, not getting into boost, not getting it high RPM, not beating on it, not throwing a lot of timing at it, I figured in my head, I did not think under any circumstances that anything could go wrong. I mean, we're just cruising down the interstate. It'd be the same thing almost as the car just idling. I didn't think that that would honestly create any issues, but it did. And so because we got a terrible, horrible batch of E85 out of a gas pump, the engine literally completely melted itself together. So essentially what happened is for 2.5 hours almost of us driving back home after we filled the car up with a 60% mix of ethanol, every single piston was basically, every combustion chamber was overheating like hell. I don't know who's at fault. I feel like I'm at fault. I feel like I'm an idiot, honestly, for that, because I didn't, I know I could have and I should have checked the E85 before putting it in the car. I know that. I should have. I didn't because I didn't have a tester on me. Should have checked it. First off. Second off, I should have, regardless, brought enough E85 to make it there and back on the mix that the car is tuned for. I know that. Honestly, I didn't think it would matter. Like I said, we were doing nothing except for driving back home from Dallas, cruising on the interstate. Honestly, I didn't think it would hurt it, and that's the truth to it. I really didn't. I didn't think it would matter. And that's my mistake. And then there's the other side of it. I'm really frustrated because I now found out that after doing a little bit of research, I was like, how is it even legal for pumps and gas station companies like that to sell E85 if it's not even 85% or higher? Why would they do that? And then I find out that the legal limit now has been reduced to 55%. So it is actually legal for companies to sell E85, but legally they only have to have 55% or higher. Because of that, I pretty much completely just kissed an entire built engine goodbye. Like I said from the start, I'm not sure exactly who to blame. I don't know who I'm even mad at. I don't know if I'm mad at myself. I don't know if I'm mad at the gas station. I don't know if I'm mad at the fact that I didn't think about it. I don't know if I'm mad at the fact that I didn't test it even though I knew I should. Don't know if I'm mad at the fact that I didn't test it and thought that it would be fine to drive on. I don't know if I'm mad at the fact that I didn't do something at least cooler. I wish I was doing something cool. Like at least if I was doing something stupid like racing and got a good video out of it. I wasn't even recording whenever the whole thing happened, so it's not like we're even gonna get revenue from that video posted because again, I just was driving. There was nothing entertaining going on that day, so I didn't think to make a video out of it. Why would anybody want to watch a video of me getting in a car, driving to Dallas and driving back home, doing nothing except for eating? So I was like, whatever, I'll just pick up next video and be like, hey, we drove to Dallas this week and I knocked out all the break-in miles. Car's good to go. Let's start tuning it this week. I just drove it to Dallas and drove it back. I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna do, but long story short, Doug currently is getting started pulling the engine out because we're gonna pull it apart and we're gonna see how bad the damage actually is. I think and am hoping that at least the majority of it is gonna be able to be salvaged because it did always have oil pressure. It never lost oil pressure. Nothing got hot inside of there except for in the combustion chamber. Coolant was not too hot. Oil temp was somehow not even that hot. Nothing was out of the ordinary. And as soon as it started doing that, the first thing, like I said, whenever it started spitting and sputtering, the first thing that I did as soon as that happened is check every single gauge. Every single gauge checked out, so I was like, well, let me just pull over and double check everything then. But that's pretty much what's going on. So I wanted to fill you guys in and let you know. It is like a really rough day for me just because of the fact that I was honestly like completely super happy and I felt like we were going to be able to get great content uploaded again. I felt like we were going to have to be able to go to the drag strip. We're going to be able to do stuff with that car again because that car is like a piece of me. So I was happy to have it back together. So that's the deal. So real quick, just to explain a little bit further so that way in case the guys out there that don't really understand how this whole entire thing works, we're going to show you real fast. Basically, we've got a testing kit right here. This helps in testing the ethanol content of E85. So all you do to do this is you literally just, very easy, you go and you mix water in, pour water up to a certain line, then you'll pour fuel up to the next line. You'll do a quick little calculation and you figure out what percentage of E85 that you have. So you figure out how much ethanol content is in the fuel. So this right here is the extra stuff, like I said, that we got from the racetrack in Garland. And if you guys actually watch this and you want to go to the same exact racetrack and go test it just to back me up, if you want to see also that I'm not lying to you guys, you're welcome to go over there and check it. But so anyways, this is the same stuff that is in the car right now. This is the same stuff that pretty much came out of that pump.
Just used 10 milliliters. This is just like a 50 milliliter graduated cylinder that I've been using to test this stuff for a few years now. 10 mil water, and then we're gonna go 35 mil of our sample. I'll take this, put our top on, and we'll just give it a little shake here, make sure it mixes up okay.
So once it's mixed, let it sit for just a second. What happens after that is the E85, actually the ethanol content when mixed with water is going to separate from the remaining fuel, so you'll be able to see the line of separation. Once you get that, you do a calculation to figure out how much ethanol compared to the rest of the fuel there actually is.
That's our
line of separation there.
Yeah, so we're based off, I mean, a little bit of water comes out, so you can normally add about an extra cc up top, but we're looking at like 33 over 46, but you actually have to subtract the 10 of the water, so it's actually gonna be like 23 over 35, 23 over 35, 36 give or take.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that real quick. So we're going to do 23 over 36 like Doug said. So basically that is going to be the content of water versus the complete fuel, and we're going to multiply that by 100. That is our percentage of ethanol. So we're actually getting 63% on this sample. Last night whenever we tested it tested at 60, but now we're getting 63%. So this here is also pump gas. This is pump E85. That is our supply that we pretty much get from the station that we go to. And I know for sure every time that it tests at that percentage because we test it every time that we go pick up a big shipment of it. And every single time it tests great. So I want to test that real quick just to show you guys that we are not fluffing any numbers, not doing anything. This is completely legit.
Well, this came straight from our jugs, and actually I brought this as an emergency bit whenever I went to Lake Charles this weekend and never used it.
That's good. Same exact process.
Went just a hair over. We're at like 47 right now. I mean, you can already tell before we even do our separation line that this is gonna be
Stout mixture.
Yeah.
Right here at the very top,
Yeah.
we're getting a line of separation.
Our separation line is right at 44 out of 47. So then you're gonna subtract your 10 of water. So it's gonna be 34 out of 37.
So 34 out of 37
And that's
times
our,
100.
Yeah, that's our.
And that is our content. 92%, which is why we run this E85. Whenever you guys are commenting saying, why would you drive that far for E85? There's gotta be E85 stations closer. Yes, there are. We have to drive that far because we have to get this mixture. This is a video, hopefully to explain to you guys how important E85 and getting a proper mixture is. Call me stupid if you want to, hate me if you want to, get mad if you want to, say we can't build an engine if you want to, say it's our fault if you want. I really don't care, but that is what is going on. Like I said, that's gonna be pretty much it for today's video. I didn't want to even make a video doing anything. I just wanted to make a video explaining to you guys what happened, because the next video, whenever we tear the engine apart, hopefully that video is at least educational or insightful for someone out there. Every single time, if you've got a car running on E85, please test your ethanol content, test your E85, make sure that you are running good quality E85.
Whenever I went down to Lake Charles and I had to stop at South Lafayette on the way down, and there's a station in Broussard. I tested it, I had my tester, and it tested like 67% in all my nitrous tune, and my, we'll call it the sauce E85 tune. I have to have minimum 80, and I probably would have done the same thing if I didn't test it. So I got just enough in there. I loaded my flex tune and made it to Lake Charles, and then tested 86 and put it back in there. It can happen to anybody, just like that. Almost happened to me too, same weekend.
I understand that this was not an entertaining video. I promise I'm going to do everything that I can to get some entertaining content out soon. It's just like one thing after another with these dang cars, man. But hey, that's part of it. That's part of it. Honestly, if it wasn't for this kind of stuff happening, we wouldn't even have a lot of the content that we do. We wouldn't be able to make a lot of the mistakes that we make as amateur car builders. I think that's something that I also want to address, is that a lot of people think whenever they watch my videos on YouTube and stuff, they think that I'm like claiming to be some professional person with everything. I'm not. And that's what's really frustrating, is I am a person just like you. I just have a car and I also want to build it, and I just have the same dream that pretty much everyone watching this channel does. They just want to go fast. Everything that we do is raw and uncensored and uncut for that reason. I don't like hiding mistakes because there's a lot of people that can learn from them. So hopefully people understand that and can ease up a little bit on calling us idiots all the time, whenever really it's not even that. It's just the fact that half the stuff that happens is out of our control, honestly. Like this fuel, I get that I could have tested it. It's just frustrating. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and before I go, forgive me for the shameless merch plug, but if you guys want to go grab some merch, go to itsjust6.com. You can grab any merch on the site, and every $10 that you spend is going to get you automatically entered in to win this GT500 right here. Honestly, above and beyond that, go and buy merch just for the sole fact that it's going to really help a lot here in the next few weeks. We are going to have to figure out something to do with an engine. I need to really just reach out to like Ignite or something like that and just keep Ignite on deck at all points and point in time, because this is getting ridiculous. I don't mind making the drive an hour to go get good E85, but it is really frustrating whenever nowhere else except for that place you can get good E85 or E90. So Ignite, if you're watching this, what's good? Yeah, they're E85, that's what's good. What's your famous saying? What's your favorite one?
I don't even want to talk about it right now. Job security.
Doug's got a joke where he's like, honestly, I don't even care if everything goes wrong. It's job security for me. The more stuff that goes wrong, that just guarantees that I got a job the next day. It is funny, but it is kind of heartbreaking at the same time. Anyways, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. Job security merch coming soon. All around me are familiar faces. All right, see you guys next video.